Welcome to the Get Offset podcast. My name is Andrew,
And I'm Emily.
and we've got some items to discuss this podcast.
Not stuff and things. We don't want people to think that
No, we don't talk about that anymore.
rubes.
This is
No.
2020 Get Offset podcast.
It is.
We've new year, new us, new decade, new podcast. That's how it goes.
Well, yeah, we're about 8 weeks into the new year.
We are officially on week 9. I know this because I keep notes for my day job in order of which week it is throughout the year.
Is next week 9 or the week we're recording this?
No,
week 9?
Next, the week that this is coming out is week 10.
Okay. 10. We made it 10 weeks in this hellish year.
It's been a ride. Some
I'll
moments
tell you what,
have been more joyous than others.
Honestly, 2020 is still kicking 2019 ass. 2019 was a really terrible kickoff for me. We won't get into that. It's been a good year so far for me, other than the whole America deploding.
It is what it is. We are still alive so far, so let's keep up that track record. We have all collectively survived every single day we've been alive.
L'chaim. Well,
yeah. Most of us.
There are people that electrocuted guy, he technically died.
There's also the whole like what defines living, like, but that could get really dark and turn into a really quick, brutal discussion of retail.
Brutal. Our British discussion. Our British existence. Is that Walden? Is that Thoreau? Are we like ants?
Yeah, I think I heard about that on TikTok.
Nice. So if you're listening to this podcast, I'm probably flying back from Dallas on this day. I hope I had a good run of shows in Texas.
And I really hope you do too. Sans Whataburger. Yeah.
So I spent most of the day that we're recording this, which is before I'm leaving for Texas. I spent a lot of it getting my mini board ready. So I had to go through and listen to it. I can't bring an amp, so I'm bringing the Iridium.
Which is pretty much an amp at this point. Let's be honest.
It's an amp. Yeah, I'm going to call the venues tomorrow, and I might try to borrow an amp in Dallas. A real one, because I'm not sure how the space we're playing in Dallas is, how equipped it is. And I finished my Bronco stay, my Mustang Bronco hybrid. It wasn't really a lot to finish. I'm just raising the action a little bit on the high E, added, finally installed the strap buttons, put a strap on it. Actually, a Gear Supply Company strap that my husband had bought me. I went upstairs and took a thread puller and cut off the GSCO logo.
Nice.
Mildly therapeutic. Someone gave me crap on the Instagram because I still have the little pick tin. They're great picks. I'm not going to stop using the picks. It's not like they didn't also swindle me.
Right. But it's still kind of funny that you've got the pick tin still.
I need a good sticker. You know what? I think I have a Fellow Robot sticker, Mike Adams Band. I might try to peel off the GSCO sticker with some Goo Gone and smack the Fellow Robot sticker on there instead.
I've got a pick tin waiting, or a tin of mints that's waiting to become a pick tin from Clint Duke.
Nice. Are they Mr. Moxley's mints?
Actually, I don't know. I'm also kind of scared to try the mints because it definitely got dropped. Like the whole tin got dropped in some water, and I don't know like what the condition of the mints are inside.
Do you know what Mr. Moxley's mints are?
I don't.
They're weed mints.
Oh.
Legal in Washington. They're my mother's preferred vehicle for CBD.
Well, I mean, whatever works, right?
Whatever works. I have a vape pen down here somewhere that I just haven't used in a while. Oh, another fun thing. So my pedal board. I have on that the TC Polytune I bought from you. I have on it the Black 5050 by Pelican Noise Works, a 60 cycle hum collaboration. It's great for a smaller board because it has two circuits in it.
Right.
I mean, and they're completely independent.
2-in-1 in a single size enclosure. That's pretty incredible.
It's pretty dope. And then I have the Boss SY1, that synth pedal. And I have the David Foster Wallace by Bookworm Effects, which is I don't know why I'm so surprised. That's my favorite delay pedal right now.
I'm not surprised either. Sounds like you've got a pretty solid setup there, and admittedly slightly jealous.
Yeah, I was gonna do the whole like pedal train Metro 24 size, but with the smaller one I can actually fit it in my carry-on, so I won't have to check a bag. I thought about this long and hard.
Well, you get a
Yeah.
carry-on and a personal item.
The personal item is my guitar, which is the Bronco Stang.
Well, you
Yes.
should just get a mono bag with the tick.
I have the tick, but it only does the pedal train nano size.
Mm.
So I'm just keeping my, and the thing is with the tick, apparently it counts as the guitar and the tick combined are still considered like one item. But
If
I'm
you
putting
use
my non.
enough duct tape, they'll never know.
I'm putting my my cables and stuff in there. You're proud of that one. You're still laughing.
Sir, we're gonna need you to cut that open.
Yes.
Every time I've flown with a pedal board through TSA, I've got the and like they all start like talking hushed tones behind the counter, and I just have to sit there, and I know that they're all talking about like, guys, I think we have a bomb. I think it's a bomb. There's wires, there's capacitors, there's resistors.
Try flying with a that was a joke. I'll edit that out. No, I've only ever gotten trouble when, not trouble, but like stopped when I flew with an acoustic electric guitar because they weren't used to guitars having electronics in them.
Every time I've flown with a pedal board, have definitely been stopped. I remember the one time though I was flying with a pedal board, and like the guy who was looking at the screen like went pale as a sheet, like freaked out, and like he like walked really quickly over to like someone else, like his manager or something like that, and the other guy's like, "Oh yeah, he's a guitar player. No, I know who that is," and like
Nice.
super chill about it. And the guy's like, "Are you sure? Like, I don't know, man. Like, and he definitely was still freaking out. They did the whole like, we need you to open this up, and
Did they take
like
the little wipes of your hands?
they took wipes of my hands and wipes of like the inside, and they're like, we're gonna need you to open up your pedal. I'm like, do you have a screwdriver? And they're like, fair point. So
Why wouldn't they have a screwdriver?
I guess
Surely they've taken a screwdriver from somebody at some point that day.
probably, but they didn't have a screwdriver with them at that point in time. And I was like, you want to just run that through the X-ray to see what's inside it separately? I don't know what to tell you. I would have brought my multi-tool, but that wouldn't have made it through security either.
Nope, sure would not have. Yeah. I have TSA pre-check, and so I never have to take anything out of my bag. No computers, no liquids, get to leave on my shoes. I'm riding to the airport with via the link with 3/4 with most of my band, and I'm just gonna abandon them and just take my cush spot in TSA pre-check heaven.
You know, you're not supposed to bring Kush through TSA, right?
Hey, as long as I finish it before I leave the state of Washington, I think I'm well within my rights.
You know, you're
I've
not
made that
supposed to
joke.
smoke indoors. Come on.
Smoke. I don't smoke it. I actually very rarely consume marijuana.
I just like making out to be like some sort of like crazy stoner. Like, yeah, man, like I was at the airport and like TSA was trying to talk to me, but like, I don't know, man. They were just there.
Honestly, I think a lot of people go to the airport really high. I know at least one person who's probably gotten pretty high at the airport. I had a friend, and I know he had like some edibles left before he like the night before, and I don't think he took them before he slept. But I do know they were not. They were like it's just like the empty package when he
I
left the
paid for
airport.
them, so I'm gonna use them, even though I've got like half this entire bag left.
Yeah, I just like to imagine everyone at the airport's a little bit high, and I know I'm not the only person who likes to imagine that.
I don't know if I'd enjoy that experience, but
Being high or
each their
imagining other
own.
people are high?
Both.
Okay.
In the airport
Sure.
specifically. In the airport
Yeah.
specifically. We were talking
Nice.
about one siloed scenario.
Yeah. I think I'm getting an Airbnb in LA with a listener of the show and Patreon supporter Jeff Covey. We're gonna see the Hold Steady when they're in LA.
Oh, nice. Where are they
Yeah,
playing in LA?
North LA Highland Park.
That's a fun neighborhood.
I've heard it's cool, and I would love to coordinate some work while I'm down there of the industry persuasion. Maybe I'll reach out to some people I know. Definitely want to hit up Mike Adams and my friend Jessica, who they're both in Long Beach, and
That's
Aaron
like
Abubo.
clear
I've
on the
already,
other side of like
I
where
know,
you're gonna be though.
I know it's like an hour away, but like Jessica was in my wedding, so I would
Aw.
like to see her. Yeah, and Aaron Abubo. I hope he comes out to one of the whole stations. He's a fan.
Fun stuff, fun stuff.
Yeah,
Make sure to give him a hug for me.
I will.
A crisp, tender hug.
Crisp and tender. Yeah. I'll take him to the Hold Steady show and get him way drunk at the Hold Steady.
Good luck.
Mm, I think it could be done.
Oh, it can be done.
It can be
I've
done.
experienced this firsthand.
Yeah.
But that's all I will say on that because what happens in LA stays in LA.
Nobody says that.
Well, I just said it. Unrelated, Highland Park is a great scotch. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, my friend TK told me that Warren Zevon wrote some songs about Highland Park,
The scotch or the city?
the neighborhood.
Well,
Yeah.
interesting.
Sure. Very interesting. Anything new with you since we last recorded?
I've been chatting it up with Scott from Stringjoy, who
Mm,
is a radical individual.
a
I,
coffee aficionado.
I would go as far as to say I think I think I'm a fan of Scott. I'm just gonna throw that out there. And we've been chatting about my little project that I've been slowly putting together and planning out, which is taking that Ibanez double cut that I have and reslotting the net to be to take some heavier strings to do some drop tune work. And yeah, so I was talking to him about optimal string gauges for the tuning I'm going to be doing and for the scale size and chatting that out. And I was super thoroughly impressed with how quickly he knew everything and what he was talking about. And not like I shouldn't have expected that for a guy who runs a string company, but
Oh,
I
he
mean,
just immediately was like,
it was like
"Oh,
without
actually."
blinking.
Yeah, he's smart. Speaking of Scott and Stringjoy, I would like to give them a shout out as an unofficial sponsor of today's show.
What?
So I
Well
got a
deserved. Well
little
deserved.
I got a little package today, and it was I was telling Andrew this earlier, and as it describing it as a unit of measurement he would never understand. But it's like
Hey now.
when you when you get a shipment of CDs in and they're put in their individual size boxes, it's like the size of an individual box of CDs. Like a set of 100 without a jewel case, and maybe like 25, 30 with one.
I know what I'm old enough to know what those are. Thank
I
you.
know that you know what CDs are, but have you ever received a shipment of CDs?
I know what a box of CDs looks like, and I used to
Okay,
buy CDs in like bulk to like burn mixtapes.
great. Well, I got one of those filled with String Joy strings, and I was just tickled. I got the box. I'm like, oh, there's probably a couple sets of strings in here, maybe a shirt or a mug or something. Nope. Or I thought it was a bag of coffee. Sweetie sent me sweet man. I don't know how to say it. The sweet guy, Sweetie, sweet
He has a
Scott,
name. His name is Scott.
Sweetie Scott. Sorry, Scott. Sent me a whole box of tens, and I'm so excited. I don't think I'll be needing strings for a hot minute, so I just want to say thank you, Scott, and I'm also apologize to Scott in the same breath. So I don't know. I don't know what happened there. I'll blame the Chianti.
And the fava beans?
Was that the great joke that you said that you had, like,
Do you not know
planned?
what I'm referencing?
You think I haven't seen Silence of the Lambs?
Well, I was it just your response. I was a little thrown off. I was expecting like a little bit more horrified or like Tom Petty American Girl reference or like something, but silence. I guess that's fitting. That's fitting
Why would you be expecting an American Girl reference?
because that's the song that Buffalo Bill was playing in his van when he abducted one of the girls. Do you remember that?
Uh, no, because one of the famous lines from that movie is like Chianti and some fava beans. But he says Chianti. He spelled I'm editing that out. And he says I think he's pronounces Chianti wrong.
Well, it's Anthony Hopkins, so he can do whatever the heck he wants. So, just throwing
All
that out there.
right. All right. All right. Yeah,
As
I'm
soon as you said that you're drinking Chianti in pre-show, I was like, "Ooh, that's like immediate." Like I can't drink Chianti without thinking of that. It's just such a good movie, super twisted, but a great movie.
yeah, I love how the Buffalo Bill ended up being the main police officer and detective in Monk.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, every once in a he'll say
Oh
something and
yeah,
you can hear the Buffalo Bill, you're like, "Ah!" But, with the mustache, it's
yeah,
unrecognizable.
yeah, yeah. I'm never gonna. Wow, that just like kind of ruined my childhood,
Aw.
but like in a good way. Yeah,
Mhm. Oh, I love that show.
that was a great show. Well, before I get too far away from it, I do want to defend my honor as a connoisseur of CDs and just say that I do have hi fi equipment and a hi fi CD player and a stack of CDs literally right behind me of a lot of my favorite music. And
Oh.
honestly, that's my preferred form of consuming music is putting in a CD and sitting down listening to it. And you can say what you want in terms of the audio quality of MP3. That's fine. There's something about that speaks to me.
I mean, I like to do CDs in the car versus streaming or sometimes even radio, but, I still have a ton of CDs. There's some that just, like, I can't get rid of. Like, it's kind of a mental block getting rid of them. I got so many CDs when I was at Beggars Group as an intern. Just like that was like they gave you $10 a day and as many CDs from the warehouse as you want. Uh, so I mean I have a shelf of CDs, like a whole bookshelf unit of CDs. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I probably have like 3 or 4 copies of like Liz Phair's Exile in Guyville also.
I think now that I've got like my little gear room workshop set up with my speakers and the CD player and whatnot, I think I'm gonna. I haven't bought a CD in a while. I think I'm gonna start doing that again because I really enjoy it. I need to update this collection of CDs that I have because honestly, like I have some great records in my little collection, but a lot of it is like, oh yeah, that's like I'm a little embarrassed that I used to listen to that. So
Yeah, I don't. I think most major label artists still have CDs pressed, printed, made. They're not pressed like vinyl is literally pressed. Um, but I think people don't buy them very much anymore. Just because, like, if you're an audiophile, you're probably buying vinyl. If you're young and don't care, if you really care, because like it's either you care about the audio quality and the status symbol, and you're definitely getting vinyl, or you don't care about the audio quality and or you don't want uh physical things, which I get. Moving vinyl records sucks a lot. It's like moving books.
right, right.
It's so heavy. So if you don't want that, then you're probably just getting MP3s or heaven forbid streaming.
Well, I mean, I admittedly consume a lot of my music through streaming, and I also do own vinyl. I just actually don't own a record player. So I've got a stack of vinyl I can't listen to.
Bummer. You know, I'm actually looking right now at the vinyl album sales charts, the top album sales charts, the social 50 and the streaming songs charts. I forgot that I have a subscription to Billboard magazine and I have kind of been falling into that all evening
Why in the world would you have a subscription to that?
because I'm a music industry professional.
Okay, well that's a fairly reasonable answer, but you're giving me
So
so many reasonable answers. I'm trying to be hypercritical for the sake of being hypercritical. Give me something to work with. Come on.
So I used to do professionally event marketing. Well, which marketing for live events. Event marketing can technically be something different, like being at a trade show. But I worked with festivals, venues, sporting events, uh, and I sometimes worked with artists to do their marketing. So what I had subscribed to something called The Real, a publication put out by Dave Brooks, because they put out just a great, like basically daily email of all the top, like specifically live event centric news. And he filled a hole that no one else was really filling. So I paid, 99 bucks a year or whatever to subscribe to this because it was part of my profession, and I enjoy it. It's just kind of an interest. And so that was acquired by Billboard. So instead of having a subscription now for The Real, I have a Billboard subscription.
Alrighty. Well, I that's a very reasonable answer, and I respect that. I admit that. I don't actually have anything against Billboard. I think, if I'm being really honest, I'm really fascinated by the data that can be found, and things like that, and trying to pull correlations from that, and wondering what the actual causations are behind it. Kind of fascinated by it.
It wasn't really real data until, especially for sales, until like the 90s.
Well, how long has Billboard been around? I honestly don't know its like long term history.
The Billboard has existed since 1958.
And what did they base their numbers off of in 1958?
Guesstimations. Before the 90s, there wasn't a way to really pull the actual raw data of sales in each store. So this is not to say that it was like completely inaccurate, but it was an issue of polling and guessing, and more about units ordered than it was about units actually sold. You'll hear stories about like the mafia being in the music business, and these are true things. Like people would stores would labels would, I guess, ship a bunch of copies of a record. If it didn't sell, instead of leaving that record sitting in the warehouse, they would dump it in the Hudson River or something, so they can say that those units still shipped. They don't have them anymore. They're not in anybody's inventory, thus they've sold. And that would be a way to manipulate the charts back as like in like the 70s.
I don't know, Bill. I think we sold about 58,000 copies of Stairway to Heaven. What's that sound I hear in the background? It sounds like a river. Oh no, no, no! It's not me dumping them in the river. I don't know what you're talking about.
Stairway to Heaven weren't dumped in no river. This is like Sean Cassidy.
Well, all right. Here I am, silly me, freaking millennial, thinking in terms of singles, not records.
Yeah.
I know Stairway to Heaven isn't a record. Before anyone jumps on my back for that.
I'm sure it was sold as a 45, though I think you might have had to flip the 45 to get the rest of it. But
That-
starting in like I think it was the 90s, SoundScan started to exist, and this was kind of illuminating in a lot of ways, um, and I think it's at least some part credited with like Nirvana hitting the charts. And another thing that's credited with Nirvana hitting the charts is hitting the charts on returns. And the idea was that kids got a Michael Jackson record for Christmas and they turned it in and exchanged it for a Nirvana album, so that Nirvana got number one based on returns. It also could have been SoundScan actually accurately reporting things versus people being like, yeah, I think we sold a lot of Michael Jackson and we sold a lot of this, and like sort of like how Nielsen TV used to be, just people being like, I watched this. So it was kind of an honor system, and not that people would necessarily intentionally lie about what they were watching or what they were selling, but you just don't remember it as well.
right.
It's
No, that
definitely
that
more
kind of
democratic the way it is.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story that NPR ran a few months ago about how publishers game the New York Times bestseller list, and how a lot of what's on the bestseller list is really like they'll like fundraise a little bit of money, intentionally buy like just enough copies, like
Hmm.
have like a warehouse like just order like 50,000 copies or whatever it is necessary to
Yeah.
bump them over, and then
Yeah.
suddenly they're on the New York Times bestseller list, and that gets them over the plateau to where they're suddenly selling a whole lot just because it has that stamp on it.
Yeah, and that's what people do. That people have always done that in the music industry. Prince actually very famously did this, because again, it wasn't necessarily units sold of that; it was units shipped. So he had an album come out that he had given away with every copy of a newspaper in the UK. And since that was units technically sold, as people bought a newspaper subscription, it catapulted that album that he had to the top of the charts at the time. And if you ever have bought a ticket on Ticketmaster that where you could get a package deal and get a copy of the upcoming record, that's another way that artists today especially try to game the system, not game the system, but like have some, like, ticket sales is how musicians make money.
Right,
So
right.
why would you not, like, if you're selling out like 5,000 capacity venues every night, and why not, when those go on sale, why don't you try to bundle it with a CD? If you could even convert like 10% of that, that's 500 units sold.
Right, right. Because I mean, to a degree, business is a game. Don't hate the player, hate the game, but it is what it is. I
Well,
wouldn't fault
it's
anyone for
selling.
pulling that.
I'll say at least that's selling units. I think Billboard had to change their
Criteria.
rules. They had to change their rules when Prince did it. He was smart. And if
Right.
people, so I was reading my issue of Billboard today, looking at the album sales charts, and I s- I remember when to be in like the top 10 in a week, you had to sell 500,000 copies of a record, 1 million copies, and now I'm reading this, and I think we've established I love Kesha. I'm just showing this as like, oh, how things have changed. Kesha's Road drives in. Kesha snares her fourth top 10 album on the Billboard 200 with a 45,000 equivalent album units earned in the week ending February 6th. Of that starting sum, 35,000 were album sales aided by a concert ticket slash album sale redemption offer with her upcoming tour, as well as merchandise album bundles. She's number 3 on the charts with 45,000 equivalent, 35,000 sold. That's how much the music industry has changed since like 2002. I know that's 18 years now, but this has been the state of the union for a while. There's
Right,
not
right.
money in it. There's not money in album sales because people don't buy albums.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe I should put a small dent in that.
Do you know what the number 1 album is right now? It's a debut.
If I had to guess, number one out like debuts in like last couple of weeks.
No, it's the first. It's the album came out not this past Friday, but the Friday before.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm gonna safely say question mark Billie Eilish's album.
That didn't debut the week before. Do you want to change your guess?
Say that one more time. When did it debut?
This is the album that was released on February, the week. Oh gosh, the week ending February 6th.
Um, shoot, what did just come out? I don't know.
Have you ever heard of Russ?
No.
Russ Shake the Snow Globe, number 1 Hot Shot debut. It's its first week at number 1. Number 2, Lil Wayne Funeral, first week on the charts. Number 3, Kesha High Road, first week on the charts. Number 4, Louis Tomlinson, Walls, first week on the chart. And then we get into Eminem, Music to Be Murdered By, number 5, which is number 5. Last week was 4. It's its third week on the chart. And then we get to Billie Eilish, her 45th consecutive week on the chart. I think consecutive week on the chart. And then it gets interesting if you
Hmm.
go farther down. So still a lot of new stuff on the charts. Interesting. Do you know the performer Destroyer?
I do not.
It's Dan Behar. He's number 24 on the top album sales charts
Uh-huh.
and number 4 on the vinyl album sales chart. So that just shows how much vinyl sales can impact things today. Billie Eilish is actually number 1 on the vinyl album sales chart.
Really?
Yep, it's her. She's been number 1 for, let me zoom in there, 15 weeks? 13 weeks. Terrible font. Yeah. So the vinyl album sales chart is funny to me because it's a couple new things. And so, Billie Eilish been on the chart for 45 weeks. Drive By Trucker's been on 1. Harry Styles been on for 8. Destroyer been on for 1. Then we get into Queen's Greatest Hits is number 5 on vinyl sales. Has been on the chart for the vinyl sales chart for 91 weeks. The Beatles, Abbey Road has been on the charts for 366 weeks.
What
The
the heck?
Guardians. How many years is 366 weeks? It's like 6 years, 7 years.
7 years and a few weeks. Because
Yeah.
there's 52 weeks in a year.
It's 7.01 years. It's almost 7 years on the money. The soundtrack to Guardians of the Galaxy has been on the vinyl charts for 217 weeks.
When you say on the charts, is that like top 10, top 25, top 100?
Usually it's top 100, top 200. But
Gotcha.
still, if it's this high on the charts, that's impressive after this many weeks. Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack been on the chart for 217 weeks?
To be fair, that's an excellent soundtrack.
I'm just like, it's a soundtrack though.
Well, I mean, it kind of functions as the greatest hits of a lot of Motown and 80s hits.
It's still a soundtrack.
Plus, Disney is behind it, so you've got to keep that in mind.
Purple Rain and the Revolution. Prince of the Revolution, Purple Rain has been on the chart for 153 weeks. That I bought that the week it came out. The vinyl record version that this is.
I'm just thrown by Billie Eilish being number 1 on the vinyl.
Of all the things, I'm surprised that Lizzo is number 18 and it's a re-entry, which means she had previously fallen off of the charts. I think this might just be the top 20, like a top 25, but so Lizzo had fallen off the charts and now she's back and she's only been on the charts for 8 weeks and she peaked on the vinyl. Actually, this doesn't say where she peaked. So that's part of what's interesting. The top streaming song of the week was The Box by Roddy Ricch. Do you know that song?
No.
I'm just gonna name the artist. Next is Future featuring Drake. Number 3 is Roddy Ricch again featuring Mustard. It says that. Something called Tones and I. Eminem featuring Juice WRLD, another Mustard and Roddy Ricch song, Arizona Zervas, DaBaby. DaBaby had like 7 songs on the charts as a songwriter. It was pretty amazing. There's so much data in these, and it just shows you how friggin' old you are.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know some of those names.
Some of those names.
Rest in peace, Juice WRLD, gone too soon.
Juice WRLD died?
Yeah. That was like a month before NAMM.
Was it an overdose?
I think that was the follow-up to it.
Oh, that's so sad. And then there are radio songs, which is a little less of a science and more of an art still, I think. Circles by Post Malone is the number 1 radio song and has been for 7 weeks now.
Yeah, all I heard about Juice WRLD was that it was a seizure, and then I just quick Google search. It looks like accidental overdose.
Don't do drugs. It's so bad.
Self-care does not involve certain things. I agree.
Don't do drugs that can kill you. Oh my gosh, When Doves Cry is the number 5 rock song on the radio charts right now for some reason. Oh, I wonder is that a cover? I think Meg Myers covered Kate Bush. Yeah, that's number 6 on the radio charts, the rock radio charts.
So there's so much data, but what does this all mean? Like, what I mean, aside from the fact that it's all been standardized to a way where it's no longer quite as much about gaming the system as it used to be, and certainly less about like guesstimating and throwing things in the Hudson River. But what do we pull out of this?
It depends on who you are. I mean, you can look to the heat seekers to see like people kind of toward the bottom of the chart. If you're trying to book a tour with somebody and you're big, or like, this is a lot of stuff for people who play higher up in the music industry even than I do. Like, again, I was not originally subscribing to Billboard. I was just it was kind of thrown upon me when I was reading, my interest was really in uh, live stuff. But just keeping up with trends is so important. I mean, if you see somebody coming up the charts, you should probably know who they are, or you're going to get left behind. It's very much an industry based on uh, knowing what's hot and what's coming up, and not necessarily, you know, an old man's kind of world. It's like it's, which is kind of funny because there's still lots of old men in it.
Right.
But you can read things like Soccer Mommy is featured pretty heavily in this issue of Billboard. Someone named Frances Quinlan from Saddle Creek is in it. Um, it's really just kind of the pulse of the music industry, from an actual industry person perspective, whereas something like Rolling Stone is more of a fan perspective, because you actually see what the data is, and you
Right.
can
Right.
see if your artist is rising. Like, you can probably know what sort of strategic moves to take to keep that rise going, new collaborators perhaps. And then it's a lot of ego baiting as well. Getting an interview in Billboard is a big deal. Does it help you? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, like this article about Soccer Mommies largely seems to be about her booking agent.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you have to have a subscription to get access to all that data, or is this like
I
public information?
Um, you have to have a subscription for a deep dive on the data. For example, I know you need a subscription to access historical charts. And my dumbest internship project I've ever had to do was I had to look through the top 10 records, singles in country music. For every week starting in 1960. I think I made it through the early 70s before my internship was over. Um, I found some really great music doing that, and I found some really racist music, but I know I had to log in. There used to be a song called Son, Don't Go Near the Indians. It still exists. It's really bad, really racist, really horrifying. Oh, very catchy.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we've more or less moved past that as a society.
Listen, I actually kind of recommend everybody listen to this song for the comedic value, and I don't want to give away the surprise ending, so I won't. But there is a surprise ending, and it's a doozy.
Do the does like the narrator get murdered?
No.
Does he change his mind on his racism?
All right. If you don't want this spoiled for you, click ahead a little bit. So the song, the boy talks about how his dad always told him not to go near the Indians, but he always like dreamed of being like sleeping under the stars and stuff. And he fell in love with this beautiful Native American girl. And then he finds out, he tells his dad, like, Dad, I don't care what you say. I'm going to marry this girl. And the dad says, here's the thing. When I was younger, I had a son, and that son was killed by the Indians. So I took you from them. You are actually an Indian, and that girl is your sister.
Oh,
And I'm like, why did somebody write this?
that's twisted.
It was a hit song. It was a top 10 country song. It was a top 10 song. Why?
I was like, okay, yeah, until you said it was a sister. It's like, no, and that's coming from a Star Wars fan. So
Yeah. Yeah, that was an adventure that I was taken on the first time I heard that song. Yeah, bad. Don't. I
that's just
mean,
a lot to process. Good gravy.
And that's, like, given during, like, one of those serious speaking parts.
Right, where the percussion goes down low,
Yeah,
and you like
exactly.
start palm beating the guitar is like, now listen up, Sonny. There's something I need to tell you.
It's by Rex Allen, and let's see what the actual lyric is. Spoken. God damn it, this is so bad. Son, the white man and the Indians was fighting when you were born, and a brave called Yellow. Oh God.
I don't know if we should be reading this. I'm officially uncomfortable.
Ugh. Ugh. This is yeah. Even just reading it now, this is highly offensive.
Well, I'm happy that we've at least moved past using some of that terminology and language. I'll be even happier when we stop putting, like oil things on native land. But
Yeah, let's
that would be
stop
great.
with all that stuff. If you haven't if been following what Layla from Tuna Tone has been sharing, it's
It is worth following. It's worth supporting,
yeah.
and I, every once in a while, I'm just reminded that capitalism doesn't always favor the virtuous, and that I
No.
think that this is one of those examples, and it just kind of hurts my soul a little bit to think about how powerless that must make one feel to have like your literally like the land on which you live like poisoned and wrecked for the sake of someone else's financial gain.
Yeah. It's absolute garbage.
Not a fan. I mean, I'm all for like uh, uh, energy solutions and sustainability and try to figure out how to best manage that, but I mean, at what cost though?
That's not
Ugh.
sustainable.
Go follow Tuna Tone Guitars. Follow what Layla's been
Layla was
posting.
posting, yeah.
Seriously, like take a little bit of time every day, go read some of that, and just soak it all in. Listen to the perspective of others. I think it was something we talked about last week. Is one of the best things we can do is listen. So
Right.
if you take nothing away from this episode, listen, soak it
Mhm.
all in, meditate on what other people have to say about what's going on with their communities, and then go from there.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. I'm trying to find there's a whole article in here about coronavirus paralyzing the Chinese live sector. There have
mhm.
been 20,000 concerts have been canceled, which will cost the region $286 million.
Yeah, that I mean that's just been a completely different bag of surprise beans.
Oh, here's the other thing I want to talk about. So one of my favorite things in Billboard is the ads because they're very industry specific ads. So
Uh-huh.
I found this ad that says uh, WMPG window. The future of songwriter royalties is here, and that's you
Oh, that's right. That was so
you
funny.
UMPG is Universal Music Publishing Group. So this is an app, and then
Which has
I'm
a
gonna
long and glorious tradition of making sure that artists get paid their dues, right?
I'm sure Universal does everything to make sure the artists get as much money as they possibly can. But I zoomed in on the screenshot, and so this I noticed later, which makes it vaguely more believable. It's from 2017 to 2020 data, so apparently you can select different data ranges, and it shows the revenue streams. Spotify, $326,000. Apple Music, $306,000. Amazon, $300,000. YouTube, $290,000. And iTunes, $280,000. I
I'm
don't
sorry,
know.
where's title? I want to know where's title on that list.
Title
I
should
can't
be above
sleep.
Amazon, honestly.
I can't sleep until I know where title went.
You know, I use Title.
Really?
Yeah,
No.
Title's great.
I've honestly never used it. I just think that's funny that it got left off the list.
Title does pay artists more, albeit like more of nothing is still close to nothing. But the point is, you have to be one of the top tier artists in the world to make $100,000 a year in streaming from all of the sources combined. And then what happens when you get that high up is your publisher's probably taking half. Or whatever the percentage that's agreed to, and your label's taking some as well. So you're not actually making that amount of money anyway. Uh, so truly, only the top tier of artists are going to be making money that's anywhere near this. It's
Wait.
ridiculous.
You mean to tell me that as someone who works in the music industry, I'm never gonna make 7 figures a month? I think
No.
that seals the deal. I don't know if I can do this podcast anymore. That's just so much money.
Yeah.
But that's meant to be it's meant to be a joke, just so we're clear. I'm not quitting the podcast. Nobody cry.
This
Really.
is
Please
over the
don't
course
cry.
of 3 years, but also, like, the idea that Amazon Music would be, like, almost as much money as Spotify is laughable. Nobody listens to anything on Amazon Music. People barely listen to things on Apple Music, and YouTube doesn't pay that much in their royalties. This is ridiculous. Who made this chart?
I'm sure it's someone who is scared of getting sued, which admittedly is a sentiment that I can relate to. But
It's just, like, it's really funny. It's just one of those unintentionally hilarious things. I also found out that Cincinnati is getting a new, concert hall.
oh really?
And I'm not very happy that there's going to be another competitor to the beautiful, beautiful Cincinnati Actual Music Hall. I'm looking at pictures. It looks like if you've been to New York, the inside kind of looks like reminds me of Terminal 5, which is a place where I once saw Dinosaur Jr. open for Sonic Youth. It was very loud.
Whoa, that would be a sick show to go to.
It was. There were several different mosh pits, and I tried to avoid all of them.
Jay Mascis is like one of the coolest people on the planet. I just want to throw that out there.
Have you met him?
I have not met Jay Mascis, but I
Neither
just
have I. He seems
pure
cool, but he's
purely
so.
based on the guitar parts and what he does with effects and how much that's inspired me personally. I find myself inspired by Jay Mascis. Just
I'm sorry, I just zoomed in on, like, they have, like, this mock-up of, what the inside looks like, and that's where I'm like, "It looks like T5." Um, and I zoomed in, and they have, like, the little fake crowd, and there's a woman. Firstly, almost everybody in the front row looks extremely disinterested. One woman's legit on her phone, one is looking really far away from the performer, and then one lady just got both arms up and is dancing.
yeah, that's how you know
Somebody's
that.
screwing with somebody.
See, that's the crowd that is like pressed up against the rails for the opener act that no one
Yeah,
actually wanted to go see, but
I
they
was
don't
about
want
to
to
say.
move or go pee or anything because they want to be on the rails for the headliner. That's
This
what that
bitch
crowd
is
says to me.
okay, this bitch is on her phone, and then she has an identical twin sister 4 people to her left, who's also on the phone and wearing the same outfit.
I call that lazy rendering, personally.
Oh, this is so funny. And just, like, some of the details are so specific. One guy's got, like, his arm around his buddy who's just kind of in front of him, looks really natural. Another guy's, like, looking down at his phone. It's almost like they were working from a real picture of a crowd and then just had to fill in some empty spots.
I mean, to be fair, that's not really the most important part of the rendering, I'm sure. I mean, I know a lot of those background details, like if you get that filled out in like whatever meeting you're pitching to, like, this is what we propose, you should do this. I know the background details can be distracting, but
I hope the designer had as much fun doing this as I'm having looking at it.
well, I admit I'm a little partial because my wife is a genius and does interior design work, and I've got to the privilege of seeing a lot of the cool things that she does. And I've seen some renderings, and you know what? Some the background details aren't always the most important thing.
But they're
Here I am.
fun.
I know it's fun. I'm just getting a little defensive because I love what my wife does, and I believe in her and support her very much. That's all.
I also love what your wife does.
Did I
I
tell
just
you she's designing a apartment complex in Capitol Hill?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's like a whole. It's like right across the street from Lost Lakes. That's going up.
Oh, no. No. No, say that's not true.
Uh-oh.
Where's Everyday Music gonna go? What's gonna
No,
happen
no,
to
no,
Everyday
not no,
Music?
no, 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 not literally not like right across the same street,
Oh
like
my
the
god.
nearby, like between Lost Lakes and Optimism Brewing Company.
Oh, jeez, dude.
No, no, no. I didn't mean to scare you like that. I didn't mean to scare you like that. But
Wait, by Lost Lake, so between Lost Lake and that brewing company is Numos, though.
yeah, no, yeah. No, it's like right across the street from Numos. or like some, I don't know. I walk
Okay,
by the,
you're gonna be more specific because I think every block you say, I'm gonna be like, no, but that thing.
well, whatever it is, they've already broken ground on it, so they're already building the building. It's just a matter of she's designing what's going inside of it, and I'm very excited for it, and I can't wait to like go poke my head in the lobby and see what she put together in real life.
Cool. That's really nice.
Since I'm already on a complete rabbit trail of like
It's a
bragging
rabbit hole.
on Melissa, uh,
Rabbit hole.
if everybody wanted to be like super rad, the company that she works for has an Instagram handle called Inspired Spaces. Go check it out. It's super rad. If you like anything along the lines of interior design, it's some primo Pacific Northwest interior design work. Just throwing that out there.
Pacific Northwest Evening Casual.
Also, I'm going to cap the number of times I say just throwing that out there to 3,
Oh,
which I
I
granted I
was
just hit 4, but I am conscious of the fact that I've said that several times this episode.
I thought you said you were going to say that you were going to cap the number of times you say rad.
No. There is no cap to the number of times you can say rad, man. Like, it's like the most radical word in the dictionary.
So
When
this
you open up a thesaurus and look for rad, it just says rad, radical, radalicious, like rad, man.
thanks, I hate it. Why do I have a subscription to the Hollywood Reporter? I hate it.
Now, that's something I will judge you for, legitimately.
It must have come with the Billboard subscription.
Sure. Well,
Maybe.
before I get too judgy and find some way to connect the dots between that and your rampant marijuana usage, I think that's a good place to end the episode. What do you think?
Jesus. Do you want me to bleep the part where I mention I joke about worst things to find in luggage? Because I think I probably should.
I would appreciate if you bleep that sincerely, just because if you hadn't immediately followed up with I should probably edit that out, I was going to make other jokes to follow up with it, but now it would just feel like really weird if it was there with no follow up.
What other? Okay, then do your follow ups.
No, it's too late now. It was lost in the moment.
Was it? No, I've never actually had that experience, but I've seen there's some TSA picture that showed like what it looked like for luggage to go through the X-ray scanner, and the example they picked clearly had a in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then TSA later edited it out.
Nice.
Yeah, I gotta figure out how some of these people on Billboard are. Where's get glasses? Oh, some organization reached out to Sunday Crush in email, and they said, "Oh, hey, would you like to apply for this big tour thing? It's a charity thing." I'm like, this sounds like a scam, and I looked it up, and it's a scam. So they make you pay 15. They reach out to you, and then they make you pay money, like $15 to $25, to apply with no guarantee of being accepted. And then if you are accepted, there's no guarantee that they're going to like do more than let you eat their rider. Like they're not guaranteed to pay you for lodging, transportation, or food, and they're definitely not going to pay you for your performances.
That sounds like capitalism gone awry.
Yeah, that sounds like people taking advantage of charitable acts. I mean, to go on tour, your expenses should be at least paid.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
So Billie Eilish's debut album was the second highest vinyl release of last year, with 176,000 vinyl copies sold.
Or thrown in the Hudson River.
Guess who was the only artist to sell over 1 million copies of their record in 2019?
Michael Jackson.
Taylor Swift. Michael
Really?
Jackson?
I
Michael
don't know.
Jackson?
I just know that Michael Jackson's like one of the artists that sold like the most vinyl ever. So I was just running with that.
Yeah.
My dad, of all people, has a Michael Jackson record on vinyl. I don't remember which one it is, but I know he's got
everybody has Michael Jackson records on vinyl.
But the thing is, like, my dad doesn't even like Michael Jackson.
It doesn't matter. It's like everyone has a copy of Born in the USA on vinyl. He's probably given it. Children's hit Baby Shark racked up the second highest number of video streams in 2019.
That does not surprise me, because it doesn't matter how many children like the actual number of individual users that consume that material, the reality is that for every toddler that watches that, they've watched it 138 times average.
Specifically, yes.
Specifically 138 times. I am quoting data that I completely just made up in my head, but is probably closer to reality than any of us would like to admit.
Yeah, it probably is. Ugh.
Baby shark, do 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 do. And there goes at least 30 subscribers, just like that.
Well, maybe you shouldn't sing Baby Shark.
All right. Well, before I get myself into more trouble, thank you so much for listening to the show. We genuinely appreciate it. Consider giving us like $1 a month on Patreon. Consider buying some merch. I designed a whole bunch of the merch in the shop, so I am personally super flattered. So if you'd like to stroke my ego, buy a hat, buy a shirt, something like that. But seriously, thank you for listening to the show. We really appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for understanding.
Leave us a review on iTunes, please, and thank you. Until next time, I'm Emily.
I'm Andrew.
Goodbye. Are you gonna say goodbye? Did you say goodbye?
Bye.
Hey, Michelle.
One, two,
Bow.
three.